hope everybody doing
This meeting
fantastic.
is being recorded.
I hope everybody's doing great this fabulous morning wherever we're at. Just had a delicious coffee and some cookies. They're called Marias, and there's like one of my favorite things. So it's super nice, and I hope everybody got an opportunity to do things that just make them feel really well, right? Self care and self love. So today we are going to have a very special service, but before we continue, we're going to ask our sweet sister Tanya to please start us with prayer.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Please join me in this prayer as together we are reunited here again in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and connect with our beloved Benemeritor, teacher, spiritual brother, and the governor of everything that we know here on earth. Divine Heavenly Father, we are so grateful and thankful to all the teachings and the blessings and guidance that you have sent to us through our Lord Jesus Christ. And in his name, as his word has prophetized, where two or more meeting in my name, my presence will be participating with them, sharing your knowledge and light. Please, Lord Jesus Christ, in this moment, we ask the Benemerito spirits, the workers of the light, to surround each of us where we are, sharing this beautiful space in this land that we call United States of America. That every house that are here today is represented that of light that shares with all the neighborhood, the city, the state, this beautiful country, and this beautiful blue planet. We want to surround each room, each citizen, universal citizen, with love, with light, with wisdom, and with knowledge, opening our minds and hearts. And specifically, we ask the Benemerito mentors to surround our brother Luiz Lima, who is in your name, Lord, is coming to share with us the knowledge of the Spirit. And may we all join him together and learn and be better after we finish these beautiful lessons, the spiritual lesson today. We ask for guidance, we ask for divine protection, and we ask for divine illumination. In your name, Lord Jesus, we are open our beautiful Sunday service today. And so be it, and so it is.
So it is. Before we go on, just a quick reminder that BSH has 7 days a week opportunities for us to nourish our souls. On Mondays, there is the mediumship meeting, which that one is for members. But on Tuesday, we do have with Divine Light a study from at 6:30 p.m. And on Wednesday, we have fraternal counseling. We have amazing brothers and sisters here. You can send an email. On Thursdays, we have a beautiful study with Miss Gina and other friends entitled Inner Renovation with Emmanuel, also at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. Um, Friday and then on Sundays, we have our healing uh, beautiful service here. And then we do have the other book study with Divine Light. So we have multiple opportunities. If you go to the website, you'll be able to find more in detail, more information, including all the Zoom links. So let us get now to our beautiful part to introduce our beloved brother, Luis Lima. Um, Luis was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and he holds a degree in electronic engineering. In 1990, Luis moved to the United States where he began his journey in Spiritism. Due to his vast knowledge in science,
Just
he
like when you were
became
in your
one of
school.
I'm sorry, could we
I
please
have
mute our
Mama, Mom, have a
Mark,
snack.
is,
Mute the microphone.
thank you. Could we
Mom,
please mute?
Mom,
I'm
have
so
a
sorry, Luis. I'm gonna restart. Please, everybody, just some etiquette. Could we please mute our phones or our computers? Thank you. Let's start all over again. So, our dear beloved Luiz Lima was born and raised in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He holds a degree in electronic engineering. In 1990, Luiz Lima moves to the US, where he began his journey in Spiritism. Due to his vast knowledge in science, he's become one of the most requested facilitators of Spiritism in Portuguese and English. He is also, right here, Luis is renowned lecturer in the Spiritist movement and participates in local and national seminars and events year round. He's also at Carter Radio, and gosh, just what a beautiful energy. You got two introductions, two of everything. So let's get that high dose of energy and beautiful teachings, brother. So thank you.
You're on mute.
Yeah, not anymore. Thank you. So this is double energy. So I was born twice in 1990, right? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen here because I think it's gonna help a little bit to do this more in a visual way. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay. All right, so we are gonna talk about this, the modern society. Modern society is complicated right now. If you ask around, if you get a microphone and you go out, most people are going to complain of some form. What we mean by society here is not the city where we are, the state that we are, the country, the province. It's humanity in general, because the complaints are everywhere and for the same reason. So when we say society, just understand that it's something wider than just, the neighborhood where you are. And right now, like I said, most people don't think it looks any great. We are going to start right here on the Spiritist codification on this book, What is Spiritism? Quick note, this book was written with a very specific purpose. You can see on the screen, it was published in 1859, 2 years after the first book, the Spirits book. When Allan Kardec published the Spirits book, he was getting back from the readers a lot of letters, multiple letters. Some were praising him, some were attacking him, some were, I'm not understanding quite. Some had questions, a multitude of letters that he was responding one by one with the help of his wife, Amélie Boudet. But there's a point where it's just too much to do one by hand because there's no computer, nothing like this, no copy and paste. So he decided to pile up these letters by subject. So these people here are complaining, those are there, they are, praising Spiritism. These are kind of lost a little bit. And he wrote a book that would address in a general form all these questions, all these things that people were bringing to him. That's why the book was born. So it's a summary of Spiritism in a short way. There is one item, which is, as you see on the screen, item 132, where he's going to tell us this. Humankind's ills are the consequence of the moral imperfection of incarnate spirits. Moral imperfection. Now, this is the interesting part now. Through the contact of their vices, they make themselves mutually unhappy and punish one another. This is very interesting because what he's saying is, when I am part of a society and I have my vices, these vices of mine, they will impact the people around, the people who I have to live with, and their vices will impact me as well. And this might become a snowball, vice over vice over vice being the same. It takes sort of a snowball effect and it comes back to all of us. And then we are in the situation that we are today. So the core of everything is our moral perfection. If you go back in time, is it echoing? No, not anymore. Okay, if we go back in time, several lives ago, each one of us, we've been going through a learning process, and that learning process comes along with questioning. We question God. We have questions that are not answered. We don't understand a lot of things, and it comes from life to life to life, one after the other. There's going to be a point, and that point is different for every one of us. There's going to be a point where instead of just questioning and complaining and whining and, doing like this, we're going to have to take a decision. There are two ways, two paths. One path is the path of responsibility. What is this? It's when I stop and say, okay, things are not going well. Everything is wrong to my knowledge or to my perception. So let me gather all this thing together. Let me put a list together of everything that needs to be done. So from now on, I will feel better. I will just be a better person. It will help me look into my past choices so I can make better choices now. That's the process that I call moral refinement. So we're going to look into our moral past. Now, it's responsibility. I'm not telling everyone to do this. No one participates in the process. It's 100% me against myself. Now, there's a second path, which is the red path, which is the path of victimization. That's a dangerous path, very dangerous path, because it works like this. If I'm not happy for some reason, let's just say that, I think my life is not good, everything is wrong, and I'm very unhappy, dissatisfied, that if I get to this point and I'm in victimization mode, I was put into this situation because of what you guys did. So you guys did something that caused me to get to this point. Well, the problem is I'm going to have to wait for me to get better. I need to wait for you to undo what you did. So it frees me up and I can go back to my life, nice and easy. So I'm going to have to wait, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to wait forever and ever, because nothing is going to happen. It doesn't depend on you undoing anything you did in the past. So it generates revolt, because I'm here waiting. You don't do anything. It's getting worse. Come on, do something. It's getting worse. It takes me to a point where the amount of inner revolt is so great that we get into a process that I call the moral implosion. We just implode. When we get to that point, it can lead to things such as depression, suicide. Sometimes it's a dangerous path. The victimization path is very dangerous. That's the path that puts this dark cloud above our heads, where everything seems to be a problem, everything is wrong, and come on, you guys, undo what you did. That's what victimization is. Now, this is for one person. If you take this, and each one participating in a society does the same thing, can you imagine? Everybody has a dark cloud now above our heads. So the entire society is under this dark cloud. And that's more or less where we are today, for the most part, because that's what people say. Everything is wrong. Our society is imploded. It shouldn't be this way. So how did our society got to this point? What put us in victimization and not responsibility? So we need to look into history. We are going to scan the history of humanity 3 times, looking at 3 different things each time to see how we got here. So let's do this first pass, this first scan. So I'm going to bring 6 important figures in the history of humanity. We're going to take a look at these guys. So first of them, Herod the Great. We know his story. he was the king of Judea. He is the king. And at one point, you know, it's been circulating in the empire that the new king is born. For him, it's like, hey, come on, how come the new king is born? He's going to take my place. I don't want that. I want to keep my power. I want to be in power. What is the solution? To his knowledge, the best solution was to eliminate the competition. Who is the competition? Newborn babies, because one of them is the king. So let's kill all the newborns. That's what he did. Now, moral standards apart, he was a great leader. What I mean by leader, to make it very clear, is the ability to have good leadership. Doesn't matter if you're doing good or bad. The ability to drive people. He was great on that. Later on, he was very in favor of the Jews. He did a lot of constructions for the Jews, made their lives easier. So he was a great leader. There's another one, Nero, the emperor, Roman emperor. According to most of the historians to this day, it is understood that Nero was the worst of all the Roman emperors in terms of not liking Christians, to the point that he attributed the city of Rome being a disaster to live in because of all the Christians. So what is the solution? Eliminate the competition. Who is the competition? The Christians. How can I eliminate everybody in one shot, just like that? Set the streets on fire, set the city on fire. They will all die. That's what he did. Now, he was a great leader. Again, ability to for leadership. He was great. He had contacts throughout the empire. He was able to convince a lot of people to do a lot of things, regardless if they were wrong or not. He was just a great leader. Here's a third one, Attila, the king of the Huns. The Huns were one of the tribes sitting north of the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire suffered throughout time several different attacks from these tribes in the north because they wanted money and power. Where's money and power? It's in Rome. So let's march towards Rome, seize everybody, take the money and the power. So a lot of tribes did this throughout time, but it was getting easier with time because the empire, the border was getting too wide. It was difficult to protect the entire border, so it was getting easier for these tribes to do this. So Attila had this in mind. I want to go to Rome, be in power, get the money. What was his mindset? His mindset was, we are going to go, follow me, we are going to go, and we have a very clear objective, get to Rome. So whoever appears in front of us, children, men, women, elderly, animals, houses, whatever it is, destroy. So he was this incredible twister, per se, of destruction, anything on his path. He would assassinate anyone that showed up in front of him. Now, he was a great leader. He convinced several tribes sitting on the north to come down with him to seize power. Great leader. Here's another one, Urban II, Pope. Parenthesis, what is a Pope? Pope is a figure representing the message of Jesus. It's the one that will convey the message of Jesus, spread throughout humanity, throughout societies, make sure that those spreading also are spreading the right thing, the correct message. And is this guy who's going to teach, supposedly, love, charity, fraternity, everything that Jesus brought. That's what a Pope is. You can close parentheses now. Urban II, in 1096, decides that, believing that the Islamic population in Jerusalem had destroyed the cross where Jesus was crucified, he convinced 60,000 people, not soldiers, 60,000 people, population, to go down to Jerusalem, traveling several days to kill and assassinate all the Islamic population. He did that. For you to convince 60,000 people in those days, there is no car, no transport, no planes, no nothing. You're going to walk a month to go to Jerusalem to kill Islamic population. How come? He was a great leader, great ability for leadership. Here's another one, closer to our times. Joseph Stalin. Stalin was the one who established the Soviet Union, so we kind of know what the history is. Now, what is interesting about Stalin is this. When he raised to power, when he took power, he started to, put in place what he had in mind. So he started to, let's keep doing one thing at a time, conquering places and locations and cities. But he was facing a problem. The problem he was facing was everyone that was well-educated, university levels and anybody well-educated was against him because they figured out what he was going to do. And it became a problem because all those countries that later came to be the Soviet Union, they had great minds, people very well educated. And he said, these people are in my way. We're going to have to do what? Eliminate the competition. So he tells his followers to assassinate everyone who was well educated, so that when the Union Soviet ended, they had no great names in science, in medicine, nothing like this, because he didn't want well-educated people to be alive and kicking. And here's the last one. We don't talk about him too much because it's so well known and so much trouble. But by the way, Stalin was a great leader. The ability, the capacity he had for leadership is so great that he was able to put an entire Soviet Union together. That's how good of a leader he was. Same for Hitler. When he started, he had different ideas of what he came to be later, but he was a great leader. How many people didn't follow him because of his ability to be a great leader? So all these people, they were all great, but really great leaders throughout humanity. These are only 6. There's probably 3 million more. So we're talking about a concept, not about 6 men. We're talking about a concept. Leaders that led us to do these things. Why do I say lead us? Because how many lives have we had? A bunch. So we have had several lives where we followed leaders. And if we followed leaders like these, that would explain August 20th, 2023. That's us right here, following the wrong leaders. We had other leaders that we could follow throughout all this time. If we had followed the right leaders, the greatest being Jesus, we would not be in the situation that we are today. We are here today because we have been following the wrong leaders, those who did what these 6 guys, as an example, did. And this comes from lifetime to lifetime. So we might have been a great follower of Nero, for example, in a previous life, or somebody like him. We might have been, in the church and followed the popes that did a million atrocities and so. So following the wrong leaders accounts for the situation today. Let's take a second pass in our history. Second approach, a second different angle. We're going to start way in the past, 3500 BC. So what we have in place is paganism, right? Where we believe in mountains and the god of mountain, the god of war, and so on and so. At one point, Abraham comes on board and states something different. He states that all of those things, all of those gods, the god of wind, the god of the mountains, the god of the rocks, they were actually expressions, different expressions of the same one unique God. That's when monotheism starts. However, after monotheism, paganism did not die. It's still alive to this day. At one point, the Jews got more organized in their belief system with Moses. So Judaism is born with more stronger roots, let's put it this way, more established. And it comes on board and is still here today. Same for Christianity. It's born out of Judaism and is still here today. All of these things are still here today, and none of them replaced the previous. 622, Islam. It's another belief system. 1510 is when Martin Luther looks at the church and says, come on, you guys are selling salvation outside the church. How come? Where is this written? Which gospel has this written on it? So he revolts against the church. He protests. That's what the name is, Protestantism. And he just opens a new avenue, a new belief system, almost. Still based on Christ, but it's a belief system. All these things are still in place. None of them came by to replace anything that was in there before. Until 1859. 1859 is a divider, before and after kind of thing. Until 1859, the domination, what we call the provider of the truth, was the church. The church supposedly had all the answers. You didn't know anything, you didn't know a thing, you wanted to know something, you would go to the church and ask them. They would supposedly give you the answer. However, around 1800, the late 1700s, after Newton is like 1740 or so. So after Newton, several people in science start to step up and go frontally against the church. One of them was Dalton. Dalton was studying the atom, and he was very, very fierce against the church. He would say this. He would say this to the church. You guys are telling me that the world was created in 6 or 7 days, depends on how you see it, but let's just say 6 days. And you're telling me that there is no evolution. Men were born men, dogs were born dogs, bears were born bears, and so and so. So in what day of those 6, the giraffe was born? And for the church, the answer was, you can't ask that. You're not allowed to ask that. And that became the standard answer from the church to every single question that we had. You cannot ask, you cannot ask, you cannot ask. In 1859, when Darwin publishes his work and shows that there is evolution, there is no such a thing as creationism, the church starts to feel the challenge. They were feeling weaker and weaker all along. And then what happens is the answers to the questions that we had for such a long time started to show up. Darwin was showing us the answers. So the provider of the truth stops being the church and becomes being the science. The science took over the ability to answer everything. Who is the provider of the truth today? It's still the science. Even us, spiritists, a lot of us, we will say, I wonder when the science is going to prove the existence of the perispirit, the existence of God, the existence of the spirit. Because we, as spiritists, believe it or not, we still believe that science is the provider of the truth, which is not. But for many of us, it still is. Regardless, science takes over. In 1859, science is now the provider of the truth. And it gets worse. In 1953, when right here in the United States, in New York, James Watson and Francis Crick, 2 scientists, they discovered the structure of the DNA. And that will change everything. However, in order to present their work and their conclusions, they put an assumption. And the assumption is, you are born with your genes and they cannot be changed. They cannot be changed. The scientists, not anybody else, these 2 guys, they put a name to this thing. Central dogma of molecular biology. The word dogma in the lips of science, that's really strange. But dogma, what is a dogma? You can ask, you have to accept that as a truth. So that means we are born with a certain set of genes and that's it. Can be changed. Now, At the same time, science tells us that the genes are responsible for example, the color of my hair, the color of my eyes, the color of my skin, and a million other physical characteristics. But it is also responsible for behavior, aggressiveness, impatience, intolerance. So what this means is, if I was born aggressive, I will die aggressive with the same intensity if nothing can change. So what is the point in trying to be a better person? What is the point in trying to be less aggressive? There's no point, because it's in my genes, I can't change. That's called victimization. I'm held captive to my genes now, as of 1953, for those who subscribe to this, and most of us did. Now, again, none of these things coming from bottom to top replaced any of the pre-existing ones. Everything is still here, in place, all at the same time. Result, this. Result, the modern society. Result, August 20th, 2023. And here we are, facing all of this thing all together, a big mix of everything that we spoke so far. Let's do a third pass on our society. Well, actually, before we do this, Spirit Viana de Carvalho, through the hands of Divaldo Franco, he's going to explain something very, very, very interesting from the get-go. The get-go on this particular slide that you see is paganism. So this is what it says. Let's look at paganism. So he tells us, go back 4,000 years ago, go back 6,000 years ago. What do we have? Paganism. We just saw that. What exactly is paganism? Well, first you have some objects of idolatry. So we have the sun, the moon, the mountains, the rocks, the sea. Those are objects of idolatry. In order to sustain this, rituals were created where they had these gatherings and parties exactly for that purpose, to make sure that we all understood that we have to praise the God of sun, praise the God of moon. And they had to provide these sacrifices. What kind of sacrifices? Submit to these gods, several of them. Submit to these God of sun, God of sea, and so and so. That is paganism. And then Viana de Carvalho says, okay, so now come back from 6,000 years ago to the current times. What we have is the same thing, he's going to say. The only difference is the objects of idolatry are no longer those. The objects of idolatry are different. The 5 main ones being money, power, sex, drugs, and weapons. Those are the objects of idolatry of the modern society. In order to sustain this, we have rituals where we absolutely have to have certain brands, certain type of fashion, certain types of technology gadgets, and so and so. And in order to sustain this, we have to do sacrifices. But we're not sacrificing to the God of the seas, the God of the earth anymore. We're sacrificing ourselves to money and power. And then he says, this is what I'm going to call neo-paganism. Neo-paganism. So the current society is a neo-paganism-like society. With this line of thought, this neo-paganism, this belief system, let's put it this way, 3 things come from it. 3 things can be said. First is, we're going to get into a point of moral bankruptcy, where we can do all of these things that you see, these objects of idolatry, these rituals, and be slave to money and power. And moral doesn't really matter. Moral bankruptcy. It doesn't really matter to do this. You can have moral standards that are high or low. It doesn't really matter. Moral does not dictate the amount of money that you have or the amount of power or so. So moral is not important. Moral bankruptcy. The second thing that comes out of this, and I love this term that he uses, material immortality. Let me try to explain what this is. For those who are materialist, meaning there is no soul, no spirit, no God, nothing like this. Matter is the only thing that matters for the materialistic point of view. So if that's the case, the more matter I acquire, the more I have and the happier I am. So just for the sake of the argument, let's think that all the matter that is available to be acquired is the size of your desk, for example. It's the size of your desk. That's it, all of it. So if you're sitting at your desk and your desk is there, you're 100% happy. Nobody's happier than you are because you acquired all the matter that was possible to be acquired. Now, let's say somebody comes along and chips just the tip of your desk. It chips a little bit and takes this little chip and goes away. You're not going to care that much. I don't care. It's just a little chip. Then there's a second person, and there's a third, and there's a fourth. At one point, you're going to say, hold on. I'm becoming unhappy because I am very, very happy if I have all the matter that matters. Now I don't anymore. How can I go back to be happy again? Eliminating the competition. Who is the competition? Those chipping my desk. So eliminating the competition means I'm going to have this forever and ever, no matter what. That's the immortality that he refers to. Third, spiritual strabismus. Strabismus is that condition in the eye that because of the position of the two eyes, the person to see well, he has to turn the head to this side or to that side. So when you turn your head to this side, you can't see what's going on the other side of the room, for example. That's the condition. Spiritual strabismus is the same thing, but at the moral level. For example, death penalty. Death penalty. When somebody in one of the states, for example, here in the United States, is going to be killed due to the existence of the death penalty sentence, this goes to the news. Tomorrow is going to happen. In 3 hours it's going to happen. It does happen, and it will stay on the news for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, and it dies out until the next person being executed, which could take a month, 10 years. So if it doesn't happen, we don't look at it. Same for abortion. At times we're going to see in national news that abortion is a problem. This clinic and that clinic are providing the service, and it goes on the news, it stays on the news for 7-10 days, and it dies out until the next clinic is targeted. So we don't look at this all the time. We turn our heads around or away from it. Now, with these three things, which are consequence of neo-paganism, we are creating social values that are not moral values. We call fake social values. What are those? Number one, and the most important one, everybody does. Everybody does. Everybody kills. Oh, okay, everybody does. I can kill too. Morally, no, you can't. But in a society, in a new pagan society, yes, you can. At least that's the perception. Everybody does, I'm going to do it, regardless of moral. Remember, moral bankruptcy, it doesn't matter anymore. Always the best. In general, when we do things, we want to do the best way. We want to do our best. In general, whatever we have to do. However, there's a problem. Here's the problem. Think that I am a manufacturer of, for example, pens. I manufacture pens, and I'm good at it, really good. So my company is growing and growing, and I have very good pens. And right now I'm considered, let's just say, the second best pen manufacturer in the world. Second, but I'm not happy. I want to be the first. But my process is not good enough for me to produce a better product. So how can I be the first? Simple, eliminate the competition. When I eliminate number one, I'm number one now. I still want to be the best pen manufacturer, but not at any cost, not whatever it takes. Whatever it takes moral away from the process. Here's another one, possess more than others. It is important in a new paganism-based society to possess more than others, even if I don't need it. I need it to show, not to use. It doesn't make a difference if I have it or not. And here's another one, expression of superiority. I need to prove that I am superior to those around me, and it culminates with bullying, which is the worst form of expression of superiority. So all these things here, these 5 things that you see in the green box in the bottom of the screen, they are current in our society. And for certain people, it doesn't bother. You might bother for spiritists, maybe, but for most people in our society, they will look at this and say, yeah, I'm reading 5 lines. What's wrong with that? Because there's this material life without moral that took form. So let's do a third pass in the events of history. We're going to look at 4 of them. Here's the first one. When Jesus is taken to Pontius Pilate, so he can make a decision of, letting Jesus go free or not, he knows, and that's written all over the place. He absolutely knows for sure, 100%, that Jesus is not supposed to even be there. He didn't do anything wrong. He's not a criminal. He shouldn't be accused of anything at all. So Pilate tries to talk to him and tries to talk to the population and bargain with the population. It's just not working. It's just not working. So he has this brilliant idea, brilliant from his perception at the time. It's a brilliant idea. I'm going to take a known, well-known, convicted criminal who is already in jail, and I'm going to tell the population to pick one. One walks out free, the other goes to the cross. Well, we know the result. We don't have to say anything. Now, think about Pontius Pilate. He knew what was right to do, but he did the wrong thing. Okay, so you look at this and you say, yeah, this will never happen again. That was 2,000 years ago. So what's the problem? The problem is, every time we do something wrong, knowing what the right is, my name is Pontius Pilate. I'm signing off my actions as Pontius Pilate. How many times we do this in a year, in a week? So you see, the physical event that took place 2,000 years ago might be different than the physical event of the things that we do today, but we still do the very same things. We know what is right and what is wrong. We decide to go for the wrong. Every time we do this, we're sending Jesus to the cross. Basically, we're sending him to the cross. Again, how many times a year we do this? Each one of us. And then we have a whole society formed by each one of us that makes it happen, sustains this. Here's another event in history. We briefly talked about it. Crusades, the Pope Urban II, sending 60,000 men and women to Jerusalem to kill all the Islamic population. Think about it. He didn't go, by the way. He stayed in Rome, in his palace in the Vatican. So every time we do manipulate situations, so the outcome is that person is going to be targeted. That's us signing off our actions as Urban II. And how many times a year we do this? We still sustain that. We don't have the weapons and the horses, but it's still the same concept. We do this with our lips. We do this with our actions in general. We still sustain this. Here's a third one, the Inquisition. In simple words, 2 phrases, the Inquisition is, I am right, you're have to follow what I'm saying. If you don't, I'm going to set you on fire. And it doesn't matter if I'm right. I'm right because I'm telling you I'm right. That's what the great inquisitor does. How many times do we tell somebody, or a lot of people, or even to ourselves, I'm right? And if you don't follow, you're going to see what's going to happen to you. Have you ever heard of cancel culture? Every time we cancel culture, every time we do something like this, we are signing off our actions as the great inquisitor. We still sustain that. How many times a year? And here's the last one. We spoke about him a little bit, but in the beginning, Hitler didn't, in day one, he didn't want to get to where he got. It wasn't really his thing. He had other ideas, which were not as nasty as those. However, for example, every time we start, let's say, for example, that I start talking bad about a friend of mine to another person, A. So person A tells B what I said. B tells C what I said. C comes back to my friend and say, he's talking this on your back. And then that person, that friend, supposedly friend, right, comes back to me and says, you're saying this about me. So now I am confronted. Now I'm in conflict. And it was a conflict of unforeseeable consequences, because when I first told A about my friend being this and that, I never, ever, ever, ever thought it was going to come back to me like that. How many times a year we do this? We talk bad about our people, even closed ones. Even close ones. So you see, all of these things are leading us to August 20th, 2020. If we look at, we're talking about history and trying to attach history to our spiritual history. Let's look at this from a more moral-only point of view. We were given a set of moral values well established with Moses. They were well established, well known, written on the tablet, and he brought down to us. So I'm going to take one of them. For example, don't kill, which is an easy one to understand. Don't kill, it's in there. So Moses comes down and says to the people, okay, as of this moment, you can't kill. What happens to these people? They revolt. They almost killed him. Because, how can you explain that I kill people every day, 3 or 4 times a day? I'm talking to somebody and we don't agree. It gets heated. The argument is getting heated. The easiest thing to do is to get my sword and run through his body. And now I can't do that? How come? So, in order to sustain this and the other moral values, Moses had to append them with what he called the disciplinary laws. And the set of these disciplinary laws plus the moral values, the 10 Commandments, became what was known as the Mosaic Law. The Mosaic Law includes social disciplinary laws. So social law is a more modern name. They were disciplinary laws in the past because that was the purpose. So, for example, don't kill. It's a moral value. The social law is going to be something like this. Don't kill. If you kill, you go to jail. If you kill, you go to jail. It's not divine. It's a social law. It's a disciplinary law that will make us change our attitudes and behavior. So now I'm talking to somebody, you get into an argument, it gets heated. I'm not going to run my sword or kill the person anymore because, I better change my attitude because I'm going to go to jail. So it makes sense that our attitudes would be different than 3, 4, 5,000 years ago because there are disciplinary laws in place to sustain moral values. Now, the problem starts right now. Just think that I am a very, very, but the most you can imagine, influential person in my society. I have all the power in the world. And I'm the most influential or one of the most influential people in my society. And I killed somebody. What should happen? I should go to jail. However, I'm not going to jail. because I'm a very influential person. So I'm going to propose a slight change in our disciplinary law. And the change that I propose is, you can kill. If you kill, you go to jail. However, if it's your first killing, you're not going to go to jail. You walk out free. So what happens now is our attitudes are generating modified or adapted or adjusted disciplinary laws. So the law now follows the attitude, not the other way around. And now that we have new modified disciplinary laws in place, if everybody does, it becomes a moral value to the society. Because now it's okay to do, everybody does. However, they're not moral values, they are fake moral values. So the current moral values in our society, they don't come from above. They come from the attitudes that we have as imperfect spirits with a lot of wrongdoings in our shoulders. So if we were to follow the left side of the screen here, we would be in line with the laws of God. However, if we follow the right side up, we are going to go against the God's law, and we are going to be in trouble. So the whole problem is what we did with this middle here, how we transformed this from divine to cloudy. That's why we have the cloud on our heads, above our heads right now. We took moral values and social disciplinary laws, threw them away, and created something else completely different. You see, when on the left side of the screen, the laws come from the one who has absolute power. It's the generator of all of it. It generates our morality, our moral values, and brings to us. So it all starts in there, in God. On the right side, it starts in us. So we are dethroning God. We are taking God, just doing like this, or like a paper, and throwing in a trash can. So we are a society that have a tremendous cloud above our heads. So we replaced collaboration with competition, and so and so. Humility became pride. Respect, forget it, it's bullying. No respect. Because the attitude drives the society, not the moral value anymore. So we sold our souls, as we say, on everything that is on the left side, and we bought in replacement everything that is on the right side here. That complicates everything. So in our society, to wrap up the discussion, we have, every society has their systems. So I'm listing just 6 of these systems. That the line of thought is the same for all. So I'm listing here: politics, economy, technology, ecology, education, and healthcare. So let's just take one, because it's the same way of thinking for all. Politics. How does it all start? Politics starts in ancient Greece, long time ago, when we had different tribes. They were nomads, tribes that were walking around in search for food and water. So they would collide or meet other tribes. They would, let's live together. Seems okay. And then it becomes more people together, living together, more and more, to a point that we say, oh, hold on, we're having a problem here. There are too many people now. Things are getting out of hand. We have to keep our society organized so we can evolve as a society. In order to do this, we have to have people who will be responsible for organizing the society. So we have to take some of these people that already belong to the society and elect them. There's going to be an election where I'm going to choose those who will be responsible for organizing the society. Now, when you have to do something like this, are you going to take those with the highest moral standards or the lowest? The highest. So everything starts with high moral standards. That's how politics comes about. And it starts. And time goes on, and we come across time. And there's a point which we can call today, where we look to those systems, for example, politics, and we say, well, let's take a history on this thing. How did it all start? How did politics start? And you look at it and say, I don't know, it's all corrupted. I can't tell. There's something written in there, but I can barely tell because it's all been destroyed. So the very base of everything, which was morality, has been taken out, taken away of all these systems. So what happens is these systems are or will dismantle. Some of them are already in course. They will dismantle, and we're going to have to create new ones. So what happened to the modern society? We lost morality in a way, and if we don't go back to retrieve it, it's going to complicate even more. How do we retrieve? It's a personal journey. It's each one of us doing for us and teaching others. That's the main goal of Spiritism. That's what Spiritism, that's why Spiritism is so great, because it will tell us why. Not only you have to be more, you have to have better moral standards. And then it's the same as don't kill. I'm going to ask you, why do I have to have better moral standards? But there's a clear explanation, because if you don't do, there are consequences. And they're not very good. They're going to be awful. It's going to be a lot of suffering, a lot of crying, and, so that's the beauty of Spiritism. It's the third layer on top of Jesus and Moses that will explain why, not simply tell. So that would be what we have to bring today about our modern society. So we'll be here for questions and comments, if any. Well, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much, Luis. What a beautiful and profound lesson that you gave us today. Love the part where you said combining the history with the spiritual history. So we thank you so much. All right. So the floor is everyone's.
Luis, I was hoping that you would put in the chat the name of I think you referenced a book.
Yeah, it's a set of books, Spirit Viana de Carvalho.
Oh, so is it in Portuguese?
Portuguese. I don't know if they are being translated yet.
Okay,
But
thank you.
yeah, he has several books on three of them, combining the three of them. That's the explanation you got about paganism and neo-paganism.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, that was excellent. I mean, it's really what we're observing, right? We're observing all these different institutions kind of crumbling, and it's a good thing. It's like we're getting a reset. It's another opportunity. We're getting another chance to maybe redo it all. And so I think it's great. And that was a beautiful explanation, very coherent. And I love the stuff about history. So when you were talking about Nero and all the different, and I like how you put it, we're talking about concepts. It's not to attack any person specifically, and it's true. I mean, when you think about that one pope that reached, what did you say, 60,000 people, and there was no internet, there was no, so it's truly amazing.
Yeah.
So I always like your presentations. Thank you very much. I do a lot of screenshots, so I can go back and.
Yeah, let me just add this to what you're saying. We are in a very volatile society. We have these values that we go by today, money, drugs, sex, power, and weapons. So for example, All of those things. Remember the screen that I showed from paganism all the way down to Darwin, and that's all in place today. It all happens at the same time. None of them is dead. So right now, it is so volatile, and power or money, for example, is so important that I might switch belief systems because the other promises more money. So you see, Christianity, or let's say Catholics, they're around, evangelicals, they're around. I might switch belief systems because one promises more money than the other, more power than the other. That's how volatile the society is. It's awful, absolutely awful.
Right. And, and the other thing is we can bring forward these old conditionings. So even though we're not inquisitors anymore, we can bring those concepts into spiritism,
Yeah.
and, you got to get my point of view, my agenda, and you got to get it now. And because I said so. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I was reflecting on an early experience I had when I was in school, where the authoritarian teacher asked for us to tell the truth, and the people who did tell the truth were punished along with everybody else. So I was just reflecting in all those examples, the role of authoritarianism and how those great leaders used their power and fear a lot of times to get people to go along with their idea.
You see, power with fear is exactly what we tried to show by showing those 6 men in history. That's what they did. That's how they did it. Again, there are only 6. There's millions and millions and millions throughout history. Just think about this. What these guys did, they got us to a point where we depended on them to do things for us. Right? Oh, this guy's got Herod the Great is going to do this for me. Oh, Attila is going to go to Rome. He's going to take power. He's going to do this for me. The other leader would say, you can do everything I did and much more. Look at the difference.
Mhm.
That tells you how far apart they are. But we decided to follow the red guys.
That is true. My gosh, thank you, Luis, for always a wonderful presentation and putting us a lot to think.
Yeah.
One thing's everything, history, I love history. And one thing I always said, not is just my comparison. The spirit didn't tell me anything. But the first time Trump, without any offense here, it's just my thoughts. When Trump candidate first time, and I observing him, I even read some biography of him. And I said, my gosh, this is exact narrow spirit. I always said a comparison of Trump and Nero. I said, my gosh, is Nero coming back to Earth? So
Well,
I don't know.
think
Could
about
be like
this.
you said.
Think about this. Trump is a great leader. We're not talking about morality.
Yeah.
Make it very clear. Trump is a great leader. He takes multitudes of people with him to get to do what he thinks should be done. That's why.
Exact like Hitler. He used Jesus, like you said, to do another inquisition or war, Christian war. And he was smart too, using that to promote people to be on his side too.
Yeah.
And the other things, Pilate, Pilatus or Pilate, you said something here very important on the moral transformation and the inner renovation. And that is something I have not think about that. And I thank you for that, because we don't know anything, and more we know ourselves now. So wow, I should think more about this. When you said Pilate, Jesus versus Barabbas, everything we do, every time we do something that we shouldn't,
Every time we do
what
something
not to
wrong,
do,
knowing what the right is. Yeah.
and then we do and then we are make more mistake than if we do not do. Now, our responsibility is double because we know what not to do and we are doing anyway. I really want you to talk a little more about that. Thanks so much again.
Yeah, then that's one of the things that Spiritism teaches us. You know, if you know the right and you know the wrong, what is the purpose of choosing the wrong? If you choose the wrong, morality is out the door. You threw it out. So you're not, you did not understand the consequences yet. And one of us has, we have our own time to understand this.
And we do this a lot.
Several times a year.
When you said that, and I said, my God, I know like that when we get depressed. And then we start to get shame of our own selves because we know what not to do and we do. That is where the consequence to completely forget about the morality. And I say, okay, I'm already lost, so I will keep doing things that is not right to do. So I already lost, I already seen a lot, so I have no reparation, no renovation. So let me keep doing bad things. No, that is why most of us do sometimes. Thanks so much again.
Okay.
If I may contribute to the conversation, it seems like one of the elements that all these great leaders, as you call them, had about imposing the subjects. So if you have the physical power, like weapons, money, riches, and people that do what you ask them to do, like go out there and kill people, it's a very powerful position. But if you are ignorant of what's the real power, then you become a victim. Yeah. So the idea is that's what Spiritism brings to us, is the concept that we are to become responsible for ourselves, that we need to educate ourselves and not become victimized by the imposition of those false leaders that are out there, imposing the ideology just because we are ignorant. So Spiritism proposes us to wake up, go to the inner reform, understand yourself, know thyself, and do what's best for everybody. So that's the principle of the true Christianity, or what Jesus proposed, because Jesus did not found the Christianity. So we need to be mindful of that too. The religion Christianity is that it doesn't come from Jesus. That's Spiritism clarifies us. So the concept here is this: we got to go back to what Kardec was able to bring together for us, is that we need to be mindful of ourselves, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to create the world that we want by transforming ourselves, inner transformation. Because if you become vulnerable to what somebody else says, what somebody outside of me says, then I continue to be a victim. So the point is, I don't need to follow anybody. I need to become a leader of myself, a leader of self. What is a leader? A leader is to do what's best for yourself, to improve your conditions, to improve your life. So I think that's one of the closest definition of leadership for me, is that when you understand that being a leader is to lead yourself into the right path.
Yeah, when Jesus says, you can do all the things I did and much more, it's impossible to do them if you're in victimization mode. It's impossible. Because you depend on an external savior to take you out of there.
So again, I'm just reminding this group that is here participating and listening to you, is that it is important that we continue the core value of invest in ourselves, improve ourselves. It's not how the green grass is on the other side that will determine my life.
Right.
Well, thank you. Again, Luis, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very good historical and informational presentation. Even my English is not so good. I could understand a lot and learn a lot from that. And the important thing that you call the great leader, the great leader are making by the people. The people make them great because they have not enough knowledge. The lack of knowledge make every time, all the times, the great leader. Because as Charles said, we are not knowing ourselves. We don't know the possibility, the ability that we have in ourselves. And the leaders, they don't want it to happen. That was in the church, the Catholic Church. You saw that they didn't want to translate the Bible so that everybody can understand that. And that was while, as you mentioned, that uh, Martin Luther King came and changed that. That was a protest against this kind of religion. You see, that is not the wrong with the religion, that is with the leaders. And the most important is the lack of knowledge of our people. We are blind followers. We don't think about everything. We don't choose ourselves. We are too lazy to choose and think about everything. We follow as our religion, our language, our nation is not our choice. Have to have that. My father was that, I follow him. And so is that. Nobody. And the most important is the education, the system of education in most the world is not right. You see in daycare, in kindergarten, who should be established the knowledge, the belief, then the regular teachers are there and they think that in this high school or in the college, in the university should have professor, but they don't know that the most important time to grow up in spirituality, to know yourself is in kindergarten, preschool, and give the information to the family, the young parents, they should have enough information for that. Of course, there are so many things, so most of the things that you talked about, and they are all lightning. And that is what you said, that Mark said, or who said, we don't know the difference. Our choice, we don't know is good or not. But I pray all the time, grant me, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change and change the things that I can. And it's important, the wisdom to know the difference and how we can get this wisdom to know the difference when we are ourselves, when we know ourselves, we know that everything is us. And when we think and we ask God within, we will find that the truth. And that is the truth can only make us free. Thank you very much.
Let me just say one thing. You brought something interesting. Martin Luther revolt against the church because they were selling salvation outside the church. Okay, who is selling salvation now? Do you understand? It's Catholics don't do that anymore. Protestants do it.
Yeah, that is why
do you understand the shift, the switch? So it was not about anything, the soul, the salvation was not about this. It was about the power and the money and so.
But at any rate, they had 30 years war together, that they couldn't understand each other. The problem is that the scientists and the religion, they don't understand each other. Everybody is think that he has right. They don't want to give right to others and understand each other and find the right thing. And you are scientists and you know that better, that there is no the problem between religion and science. They can complete each other. They are like a puzzle that they match each other. And when we understand that, that we can come to a better solution than to be against each other. Thank you.
Is I think it becomes our task to find the cure for our personal conscious strabism.
Yeah.
So if the politician or whoever is in front of us try to point the right way, we need to be responsible and make sure that they don't turn our head to the other direction when they try to hide something. We need to find our own personal truth. That's why evolution is an individual process. That's what Spiritism teaches us. We're not going to go to the next level together. We're going to go individually. Then we
Yes.
make it together over there.
Yeah, all these events that we mentioned, they took place because it took place in every head, in every soul first. It was sustained by a lot of individuals, individual spirits that together in a society sustained and made it happen. But it starts with each one. Yeah.
Yeah, the number of votes. Who gets the most votes win.
What an amazing conversation. We're already hitting our time, but just, is there anyone who is like, I really need to say something? This is a really good conversation. All right, just let us just be mindful of the time.
Just
Correct?
one quick thing. I was blessed to watch this yesterday morning, and all day long I thought, what is my action item? And today, again, I started asking myself that, and this group has come back with the action item. It is up to us individually, not to become leaders necessarily, but for us to change internally. I have my action item now.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Luis.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope that Ms. Tina could
Absolutely beautiful. And to think about this at the end of the day, right? We are all children of God, so we work individually, but we also know society is the collective, and each of us together make this beautiful. And just so we can end on a beautiful note, there's a lot of beautiful things today in our society that have become pivotal, that are really helping us to transform to the next stages of what we have. And as an educator who works with younger, many adults, I call them little babies, you can already start to see the spirits that are coming in, and they're going to make a lot of shifts. And we already see it, and it's a beautiful conversation. So with that, I do want to just quickly, friends, I want to apologize because when I gave the announcements, I forgot the Wednesday class that our dear Tanya's sister teaches, please, and the daily prayers. Other than that, I think, are we good? Do we feel complete, family?
Time
All
for
right,
prayer.
excellent. So thank you, dear Luis, for everything. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're ready for the second part. So if you can grab your waters.